people view us as superheroes and, you know, celebrities or whatnot, but we all fight the same battles.
I don't think I could truly be happy until I retire.
Physically, I was getting exhausted. Mentally, I was way past exhausted.
At age 22, Terry announced his retirement from the NBA, citing the anxiety basketball has caused him. And while the game gave him success and accomplishments, it also caused him to experience the darkest times of his life.
I was dealing with some mental health stuff that kind of runs in my family.
I didn't feel like a human. I felt more like a product.
I couldn't catch my breath. I felt like my mind was completely out.
I just got to a point where I just got tired of feeling like a fraud, of just always making it seem like I was okay all the time.
Nothing is enough. No one understands, and you never want it to stop.
The pressure to succeed in the NBA is like no other. When a game is on the line and the ball's in your hands, you simply can't afford to make mistakes at the top level. It's the kind of pressure that NBA stars spend years conditioning themselves for. All through high school and college, players learn to handle the pressure of basketball. There's another kind of pressure in the NBA, though, one that no amount of college ball can prepare a player for: the pressure of fame. In December 2022, young NBA guard Tyrell Terry announced his retirement from basketball. He was just 22 years old at the time.
I wasn't really aware of that it was creeping up on me. It kind of hit me pretty serious, so I had to take care of that and figure out ways to, make myself better in that area.
The anxiety that came with being an NBA player was so overwhelming, Terry had no choice but to walk away from a dream he had spent his whole life working toward. When you consider that Terry had only been in the league for a short while and was not a star name in the NBA, it does make you wonder how much more intense the pressure of fame is for players at the top. Players like Sacramento Kings guard and six-time All-Star DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan is one of the faces of mental health awareness in the sport and has made a point of sharing his struggles with depression and how it affects his life when he's not playing basketball.
It's so much internal pressure to want to be great every single day. Every single day of like, I gotta go back to the gym. I didn't do enough. I didn't this. Should I take the day off? No. I'm gonna just push through it. And it's you carry that so much to where you can't really fully be happy until you walk away from it.
For Debo, everything that comes with being a star in the big league of basketball can become too much to bear at times, and he isn't alone in sharing this reality. Kevin Love's another big-name baller who's made it something of a mission to raise awareness about mental health in sports.
It's interesting when you have a injury, so to speak, and you have a knee injury or my hand or, it's an ankle sprain. It's a lot different when you can't see it and somebody doesn't know what's going on outside the lines. Everybody's going through something. Success is not immune to depression.
Kevin's comments highlight one of the more serious problems facing famous athletes in the NBA. People sometimes look at the money, the fame, the flashy cars and jewelry and dismiss the idea of someone living such a life as also having mental health struggles. Many of us yearn for more money, more recognition, more fame even, but sometimes the fame goes too far and the pressure that comes with it is life-changing. The NBA is one of the most popular sports leagues on the planet, making the players some of the most popular human beings on the planet. Everything a superstar NBA player does is placed under a microscope. Being able to talk to someone is sometimes vital in allowing a player to cope in the big league.
People reaching out for help or talking to someone, it does really work. And for so long, I put that off thinking I didn't need it.
Let's say a player fails to make a big shot or they turn the ball over one too many times in a game. Then they get home and see their social media feeds filled with mentions, tags, and notifications about those mistakes. Paul George is another NBA star who has spoken about his experiences and struggles and is committed to helping his fellow players through similar tough times.
I think the more that we can just talk about it, the more that we can make it normalize the situation. And I think people will start to be able to address it themselves.
PG-13 was able to recognize his need for assistance, and in sharing his story about his mental health struggles, he's essentially opening the door for others to do the same.
Whether I was the first to say it or not, we all dealing with it. I had conversations with guys here, and it's been a couple guys that, it's like, man, I'm happy I'm not the only one. I've been dealing with this too.
Since the 2019-20 season tipped off, the league has made it a requirement for all teams to be connected to a mental health professional that their players are able to have access to. This means every team in the league has a registered therapist or psychologist on hand ready to help players deal with the struggles that can come from being a famous basketball player. Let's take a look at one of the NBA's most upbeat, humorous, and downright lovable personalities in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis is famous for his sense of humor, his quick-witted quips during press conferences, and for just seeming like a generally pretty laid-back, chill kind of guy. Even the Greek freak understands the importance of protecting his own mental health, though.
Not able, to take a break because not only physically, just mentally, just kind of go away from the game and spend some time with your family and do what you love and just like sit on the couch, eat Doritos and, be a couch potato. Like you need that, in order for you to be great.
Giannis knows that taking time out for yourself is essential, and he also understands the importance of seeking help with mental struggles. In 2023, the Greek freak pledged $1 million to mental health services in Milwaukee. Giannis actually once considered leaving the game behind because of mental health struggles. This is one of the game's truly elite players we're talking about, so it proves that these struggles can affect any player, no matter their age, ability, or status on an NBA roster. And it really doesn't matter how talented a player is on the court. Pressure away from the game can greatly impact their performance. Off-court troubles can bring a career to an end, or at least to a crashing halt. In 1993, after winning his third straight NBA title, Michael Jordan retired from professional basketball. Now, looking back, some fans don't place a huge emphasis on MJ's first retirement, as after all, it was the first of 3 separate retirements. Jordan retiring and coming back has become something of a joke these days. But when you really examine why Mike hung up his heirs for the first time, it becomes clear that Jordan was struggling mentally. 3 months prior to Jordan announcing his retirement, his father had been murdered. This would be enough to leave any person struggling to get on with their normal lives. But Michael Jordan was one of the most famous people on the planet. He had millions of fans waiting to watch him play, and he had an entire city, a historic NBA franchise, counting on him. Jordan didn't let anyone down. He performed as only he could, and would eventually lead the Bulls to more championships. On the way to number 3, though, Jordan encountered an issue that seems insignificant when compared to the tragedy that would occur after the season. During the Eastern Conference Finals, MJ was spotted gambling in Atlantic City. Mike's gambling habits were already well documented by this point in his career, and so when word got out about the Bulls superstar hanging out in a casino instead of on the court, the media and the public went wild. Still, Jordan persevered and added another ring to his growing collection. And while many consider the death of his father to be the driving force behind MJ's decision to leave the game behind, it's hard to believe that the mental toll taken during the playoffs, specifically while Jordan was under intense media scrutiny, didn't play their part in the decision. So, if the GOAT struggled to handle the intense pressure of fame back in the 90s, where does that leave the NBA players of today? Well, MJ is one of, if not the most famous athlete in the world. But even with that in mind, Air Jordan was taken off long before things like social media and NBA Twitter even existed. The modern NBA superstar is under a constant spotlight, much like Jordan was, except it could be argued that with social media today, the spotlight is much brighter and therefore that much more difficult to withstand. When Tyrell Terry announced his retirement, there was shock. Of course, people couldn't believe a player with such a bright future would throw it all away. After the shock dissipated, though, there was an outpouring of support for the young point guard. Fans, pundits, and fellow players all took to social media to wish Terry the best for his future and to offer him support with his mental health struggles. As much as social media may add more pressure to NBA players' lives today, there's a more positive side of the coin, as it can be seen in Terry's story. Tyrell Terry has to be commended for being strong enough to admit his need for help. It's also admirable that Terry was able to say goodbye to money and fame. He was able to recognize that money and fame were causing problems for him too. In the summer of 2024, Terry announced his return to professional basketball. Instead of an NBA comeback, though, the former Stanford Cardinal will play in the French Pro A-League. Seeking help clearly worked to Terry and continues to work for many of the NBA stars.
I feel like it's all about helping others. It's not about you just being a selfish person about the things you're going through. Other people going through stuff as well. If you could share that and put that on the forefront and make it help somebody.
With the league's renewed focus on supporting the mental health of players, we can hope that a career in the NBA is now much easier to navigate. Which NBA player do you think has done the most to advance mental health awareness in modern basketball? Let us know your pick in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, like, and subscribe.